Okay, so this is the second video for the day, April 7th of 2023. The first thing that I want to say, people, is something's going on. I went and seen the eye specialist on the 29th of March. He did the laser surgery in this eye. He told me it was 3 times. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? I said, okay. He said, don't move. He said, look like this. Like, look in that direction. And just stay like that. He had me focus on some little red thing. And then he turned on some bright white light that I couldn't see shit. But I had to keep my eyes still as best as I could. He went boom, boom, boom. It was a very forceful, something pierced me as if it was a nail. That's what it felt like if I was to be pierced by anything flying at high speed. With great force, I would equate it to a nail gun. It felt like it went inside and got stuck. I realized it was the laser and it cut through. Okay? So 1, 2, 3. But it felt more like it went in and stayed in, whatever was there. Okay? And then his assistant said, you're done. I said, oh, which made me react and slightly move a bit, but he said, no, you're not. No, you're not. He said, no, you're not. And he quickly did another one. Now, whether I was moving when he did it, because as soon as she said, you're done, I wasn't compelled to keep my eyes in one direction, right? As best as I could, because it hurt, people. It really kind of hurt, right? Not a hurt for me to cry out, because, you know, I'm used to bumping myself and breathing through the pain, right? Or whatever. So, you know, I wasn't, oh, that hurts, you know. No, I'm just going to like, oh, suck it up, buttercup. And 1, 2, 3, you're done. Oh, okay. Went to go, and he said, no, you're not. And he shot me again. Okay. Whatever. That was on the 29th, people. And, you know, I can definitely feel like he agitated it. You go into my videos, every now and then you're going to come across my videos where I specifically say, I go see these eyes doctors over the years, since this all came about, right? And my eyes get worse soon after seeing them. They do. They just do. Right? So, but, you know, I'm trying to, like, just not feed into the beast. I know I'm under attack, people. I know I'm still being gang-stalked. I know that Amari represents at least 3,000, if not 3,500 to 4,000 a month in tax-free income for some middle-class family who wants to sustain their lifestyle and become a foster parent to a child like Amari. That's how they sustain themselves, because he's highly special need, which puts them at the very top when it comes to that payment from the government. And the last time I checked, it was $3,000 a month. And I think the provincial government just gave foster parents a raise on their income, which is completely 100% tax-free. Went through it with Andre. So you know somebody's drooling at the bit to supplement their household income so they can afford their mortgage, keep up with the Joneses on the street that they live on, okay? As they continue to implode the family that Amari was born into, just like they try to implode the family that Andre was born into. And they were actually very successful at imploding all of us. To which, fast forward, when ShaMay was murdered, what did the cops do? They went into her medical files at the hospital and said she was suicidal when she was 17 because I took her to the hospital because she was having a nervous breakdown because of what social workers did to Andre by illegally apprehending him from a daycare, as they were misleading the family. And then they shut the kids out and wouldn't allow the kids to see him. Of course ShaMay got depressed. She was 17 years old. Still pulling in honors at school, though. But she was depressed. And she was, you know, like kids, teenagers. Oh, I want to die. I have no reason to live. Andre's gone. Ooh, boo. My sister's turned into a junkie. It wasn't like this 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Everybody was happy and doing well for the most part. And look at my life now. Oh, and the dirty cops, they use that to their advantage to cover up murder. Because they have to sustain their middle-class incomes. They got to maintain and keep up with the fucking Joneses or the Punjabis or whoever the hell they're competing with when it comes to that middle class, if they're not looking to get rich. So, isn't it convenient that just as Amari is going into major hip surgery, as I'm being forced to consent to something that I disagree with, because that's basically the only thing that's available is a research study, because that's what the government funds. That's what that doctor was hired for. That's where that doctor likes to put all his eggs into one basket, outside of throwing bones into a garbage can to scare the parents or the caregivers to give in to what he wants, being that he runs the research program. Yeah, okay, people. So anyway, we know how I got set up with my eyes. It was just a ticking time bomb. They knew it. That's why the clinics wouldn't call me back when I left a message to call me back, because I wanted to make an appointment to get a referral. That's why my family doctor told me to take him to court, because as soon as he said that, he knew I wouldn't go back and ask him for fucking shit. As if I can go talk to my family doctor and get a referral for eye specialist. Yeah, okay. No, last time he talked to me, he told me to take him to court. They knew that no doctor was going to see me under their COVID rules, because doctors didn't need to. All they had to do was keep the light on and pretend that they were seeing patients. They weren't obligated to see patients. As a matter of fact, they didn't have to see patients because they were being subsidized not to see patients, people. The government was giving them money to keep the lights on, pay the rent, pay the employees, as the doctors themselves weren't seeing patients. And that's assuming that they even answered their bloody phone. But they were still listed as doctors. You just couldn't reach their office. Well, what do you think happened? Convenient, don't you think? I think so too. So, today's the 7th. So within 8 days of having that laser surgery, my eyes have gotten worse. I noticed it almost from the get-go. Right? First of all, it felt like it was plugged up with something. I ignored it. Right? Now it feels like there's a bunch of sand or rocks or something in there. Right? You know, it's gritty. Something gritty in there. Right? And it feels like it's being, squeezed or something. I don't know. And it's much more glary in terms of that white. Remember, I just had a dream where I'm looking in the mirror and I don't see an iris, I don't see a pupil, I see the outline, just a line of something that could have been there, that should have been there, but wasn't there. Okay? My whole eyes went white. And since that dream, my eyes have gotten worse. In terms of, not only are they more foggy, but they're more blurry. Yeah, especially this one. Not that I can see much out of this one, but this one really throwing everything off with my supposedly one good eye, which is only at 13%, assuming that I haven't lost more octave nerves. Because it sure feels like it. Well, this one feels like it, but it sure looks like it. So in the meantime, I asked this eye doctor, I said, well, maybe I should get some new glasses, right? Like go to like a, some place to get some glasses. But the problem with that, though, is I need different glasses for different things. if I'm looking at a computer screen, I need a different glass, which these ones at one point worked, but they fell down and the lens broke out, right? And anyway, Andre managed to put the lens back in, but it popped out. I ended up putting this with the lens in a bag to try and maybe have him take the lenses and put them in a new frame. I went to grab the bag today, right, because I can't see, right, and it's gotten worse, right, and I really want these back for a computer, right, because I can only use really these ones for the computer. And where's the lens? It fell out. I don't even know. I know it was in there. I had him in there. This thing fell at one point. I thought the lens was in there, but so I'm like fucking hooped, right? In the meantime, I told him, like, I need different things, different glasses for different things. You know, maybe I should be thinking about, soon going to an optometrist to get a couple pairs of different glasses for different things. Oh, no, don't do that. Just use dollar store glasses. That's what he told me. They're not working. They're giving me fucking headaches because I'm switching them around, left, right, and center. And then they break, and I can't. But that's not what is affecting this eye to make it blurry, which is making this eye blurry as everything's going more white. So not only am I dealing with fogginess now, but I'm dealing with more blurriness now as I can feel the pressure in my eye. And then I get people coming in saying, oh no, you're lying on YouTube because I had this and this is the way it worked for me. And, I had this and this is the way it worked for me. So therefore, somehow you're lying. But yeah, you're not dealing with, first of all, late stage glaucoma. And if you do your research on late stage glaucoma, you would clearly see that whatever this doctor is doing wouldn't improve my eyesight, other than at best he might be able to relieve the pressure. But as he's working towards relieving the pressure, he's also destroying my eyesight a little more, and a little more. Because he comes with these magnifying glasses. He opened my eyes, he sticks these magnifying glasses onto my eye. He comes in with a machine, he's zooming around, he's looking around. You know what I'm saying? And then when he's shooting laser beams at me, 1, 2, 3, I'm like, oh, okay. And the woman specifically said, you're done. I went, oh, and I moved. And he said, no, you're not. And just as I was moving, he shot again. So maybe he shot something else, and that's why it's all blurry now, for all I know. I don't know. I just know that it's very, very convenient timing, as I got some social worker who doesn't tell me that she's a social worker. She just calls herself Rachel. Oh, this is Rachel from the ortho. It's not an emergency. Please call me back. I'm like, ortho, like from the children's hospital. Ortho, like, what does that mean, right? Like, and what? It's not an emergency. Like, they're trying to put fear into me, people. Why would the children's hospital be calling me up saying it's not an emergency and not telling me exactly who they are outside of they're from ortho? So when I phone her up, I'm like, okay, well, who are you? Well, I'm Rachel. Yeah, I know, but what's your job title? What's your job description? I'm a social worker. Oh, okay, from what department? Orthopedics. Oh, the hip doctor. Yeah. Well, why are you calling me? Well, because he created a new job position for me. I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? Oh, and then I tell her what's going on with my eyes and how I'm trying to set up a system here with, as backup with Tisha and whatever. And, I'm trying to be responsible and just be prepared and whatever. And, oh, you got a full plate, as if they don't know. Of course they know, people. I'm still being gang-stalked here, okay? It doesn't take a fucking brain surgeon to figure that one out, right along with my son downstairs having to vacate from the basement. And if not him, me from upstairs. And they don't care where you go. Not once did my landlady offer a solution as to where I can go outside of get rid of your shit, because you're never going to have a place like this again. So what, are you telling me to get rid of my grandson too? Is that it? Or do you just depend on the healthcare system to do that for you so that one of your friends that live next door to you in a monster home can sustain their income with that tax-free money as they look after my grandson and sign him up to each and every fucking research study that the government wants him on? As they isolate and target my family even more. Been there, done that. I know the routine, people. That's why ShaMay is dead. That's why Sierra's dead. That's why Uncle John died an old, lonely man and had his money robbed from him because of that system. It's the only way these individuals know how to sustain their wealth or their lifestyles. Whether they do it collectively with intent or purpose, or whether they're just caught up to that cloud. Because when you're dealing with the healthcare system now in British Columbia, Canada, everybody is inoculated. Everybody. They don't care if 28 doctors across Canada and counting, I think it's 32 now, have suddenly died out of the blue since that came in. Because it's worth the risk. And they need their employment. If they step down, say no, they get fired. Right? So, you know, therefore, what makes it right for them should be right for me by any means necessary. Even if it means pulling out the rug from underneath my feet and shooting me an extra time in my eye. So that within a week, it becomes even more worse than what it was before I got shot in it. As I got phantom social workers calling me up, saying it's not an emergency, please call me back. Okay, that's like that hip doctor saying, well, you know, if you leave it too long, I'm not going to have a choice but to cut off the bone and throw it in the garbage, Miss Judy Chorney. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? That's the only thing that you promote. Either throwing the bone in the garbage or go do it your way with your research study because you're the proud king of it in all of Canada. Right? You offer nothing else except that. Because that's the only thing I guess the government pays for under public health care. And even if you wanted to get private health care in British Columbia, Canada, well, I don't know if that's even possible, first of all, because these guys all work together and stick together and play by the same fucking rules, right? And very few of them ever go outside of the box. So I doubt anybody could go off and find an independent doctor to give them the service that they would want compared to what they're going to get when they go to a doctor through a referral. Like when I asked for a second referral, that hip doctor says, well, yeah, you can talk to my partner. You know, we work together, right? You know, he's on the floor right along with me. And I'm like, well, that's not very independent. Let me just go home and see who I can phone. So I made a few phone calls, got through finally to somebody that's, you know, familiar with that type of thing with children. And it turned out he was going to retire. And he knew the hip doctor that I'm dealing with because they had already worked together. That's not at arm's length, people. There's no at arm's length to, you know, right, in terms of the information that he's going to give me. So I never showed up. I didn't follow up on making an appointment. I said, I'll think about it and I'll call back, if, you know, and I never did because he wasn't going to listen to what I had to say about, you know, what is that called, hip replacement. Instead, he'd be like, well, no, this is, you know, this is the sign of the times and this is what we do. And, you know, and I'm in agreement with the hip doctor. So therefore you should do what he says. You know, whatever. You know, so what is this woman, Rachel, just all about calling up when Amari has his hip surgery and then out of the blue I'm going to get a phone call from her saying it was an emergency and that I better rush down to the children's hospital because my grandson's in a coma now? Right? Do you see how they play on your fear and on your insecurities and that kind of shit? As I'm going blinder and blinder with my eye doctor, telling me he's going to shoot me 3 times, but instead he shoots me 4 when I'm starting to turn my head. Yeah, okay. Because his attendant is saying you're done. So when you hear you're done, you relax and you move. Well, he said, no, you're not. Boom. Yeah, okay. Now, 8 days later, I don't know. I have my good days and I have my bad days. Okay, but I can feel it. Okay. Apparently you can't get infections with laser surgery. I don't know how much truth there is to that. And even if I did get an infection, I wouldn't know. Andre said my eye is not red. I said, well, that's good that you're aware of that, Andre, because it never even crossed my mind. Because if it was, I couldn't see it. You see, that's the thing. So I said, being that you thought about that, Andre, you keep an eye on Nana's eye. And if you notice it going red, by all means, let me know. I can only relay what I'm feeling physically and emotionally in relation to. The closer we get to hip surgery, the more it benefits for them for me to go blinder. That's how gang stalking works. If they don't get you over here, they get you over there. Time is always their weapon, people. Always. Sorry, the doctor's not taking new patients. No, we can't give you an eye referral because the doctor is not taking new patients. No, we're not going to give you an eye referral because we just won't call you back. Right? Give it enough time, knowing what they know when it comes to glaucoma, right? In terms of untreated with high PSI of over 50, it was a matter of 2 years, at best maybe 3 years. I didn't even make it to the 3-year mark, people, before I basically lost the majority of my eyesight. It didn't take long to kill off those octave nerves. All it did was take a little bit of time and a whole lot of running around and pressure to look after Amari and whatnot, right, based on he was injured with intent to fill a slot within a research study to which that hip doctor doesn't seem to have any room to move in terms of it's either my way or the highway. But before they'd let me go on the highway with Amari, they would remove him. And now they're sending in some kind of social worker on the first step in. It's not an emergency. So what are you telling me? Next phone call, it will be? Okay. Well, why are you calling? Well, because I'm here to help you, maybe with transportation or something like this. I said, well, I'm already connected with the Children's Development Center, and if I need to go to the children's hospital, right, there's a social worker in that facility that helps me to fill out the paperwork that gets put forward to MCF, the Ministry of Children and Families. There's 2 different ministries. It's like through my welfare file, right, because it's a special expense that's connected to medical, so it has to be approved by a supervisor through the financial department. So that would be Ministry of Social Development and Innovations. Or is it MCFD? Either or. It's all related to medical. And it has to be approved by a social worker. And I already got a supervisor. And I already got a social worker through the Child Development Center helping me with that, because it's $150 to go back and forth by taxi. So, for her to say, well, I'm here to help you with transportation is kind of suspicious, because that's already been dealt with, right? Outside of, she can write the letter to give to the other social worker in the Child Development Center to confirm that Amari is going to be in the hospital for 3 weeks at some point in the future when that time comes for hip surgery, right? Just to guarantee that he's there and there's no excuses. Well, I can't come. I can't afford to. Well, maybe I don't want to. You know, maybe I'd like to consider hip replacement. Or, again, what happens if you cut the bone? At least, what happens to those kids? Maybe it's better, you know, in terms of the long term, where you don't have to go in there and reoperate over and over and over again over his lifespan. Just saying, people. I'm just saying. You know, what happens to these children that are like Amari or whatever, that are in like, and I think about this, you know, like in Ukraine, in the orphanages, you know, children that are, you know, physically deformed because of being, you know, radiation within the environment when Chernobyl blew, or whatever, or anywhere, right, where, you know, children are dragging themselves, right, with, you know, problems with their legs and their hips or whatever, and they all seem to be managing, you know, like, what happens to them? Like, did they ever get surgery as to what's being proposed for Amari? Like, or do they just learn to adapt with their body like Amari is learning to adapt? His bad leg, the right leg, he uses it as a crutch to be able to wedge himself so that he can swing his body, grab, pull, turn himself around, flip, and then he goes like this to move to get to where he wants to go. Like, the little boy's got a system going down here, and that freaking doctor is just gonna stunt him, completely stunt him on all levels of growth with no guarantees, and they want me to gleefully consent to it, so that if something goes bad, where Rachel's a social worker is going to call me up out of the blue and say, quick, it's an emergency, you have to come to the hospital. Not one of those individuals are going to take any responsibility for injuring my grandson under the research study, and nor will the government take any responsibility for the funding that they provide to each and every employee under that umbrella of that research study. They'll expect me to take it to the health authority, right? Because they're all just a bunch of fucking cowards, one way or another, and they use and abuse the system to their advantage, and they take advantage of vulnerable families when they think they can. And they do it under the disguise of, let me help you. Yeah, let me help you, drug you up, put you in a hammock, put you in the bowels of a ferry, drive you across the water on the ferry as you sit in the van sleeping. And then when you wake up, because you're coming off the ferry, and your sister realizes that you're going down swinging, oh, no, she's not going to allow that to happen, though. No. She's going to rush off to the Victoria General Hospital and say, look how we found him, quickly drug him up to shut him up. And that's what they did, because his sister's on the phone talking about how John was sleeping. The only way he was sleeping is because they kept him fucking drugged as they were running around looking how to steal his money. Well, it's going to be the same thing with Amari. Maybe. Don't underestimate what you're dealing with here. Because, again, if they can get him away from me, well, she's blind. She can't look after Amari no more. She's too confrontational. She's not willingly agreeing with us and our program, our research program at that, or whatever. So, you know, we got to take her out. And if we can't take her out, well, then we got to take out the house, and we'll just send in the landlord, because the landlord knows that the whole system itself is corrupt, and she's there to capitalize at age 83 so that her family will continue to love her after she's dead. Kind of like Joan. If Joan didn't have that superannuation life insurance policy to leave to Debbie and I guess John, even though John didn't care, right? John wanted to be left alone. That's why he canceled his superannuation life insurance policy, so his family couldn't have robbed it. But they robbed Joan's that she left him. But the thing is, the only reason Joan fought so hard to hang on to it and any other life insurance policy that she had was because she felt that was how her family would continue to love her, even though they couldn't freaking stand her. because of her mental illness and her puking and her bulimia and her anorexia and her picking at her skin and eating her scabs and 15 fucking pills later because that's what doctors like to do, and just the whole 9 yards, right? You know, they didn't like Joan that much, but they sure loved that money, and Joan knew it. Joan knew it. So she had to ensure that everybody got money so that they would never forget Joan, and they would always be thankful and say, gee, Joan, yeah, we love you because you left us hundreds of thousands of dollars when we weren't stealing it from your husband. As they literally destroyed my family, and they're not done yet. They're not done yet, people. How do you think I feel when I put my guard down and I listen to an eye doctor, trusting him that he won't hurt me? And then 8 days later, clearly, it's not the outcome that he said it would be. And he wants to go and rotor-root around my iris before he changes the cataract on this eye. Yeah, okay. That's my next one. That one I have to go to the hospital, and they're going to put me under general anesthetic so I don't move and I can stay calm while he takes a little pipe cleaner and goes around my iris to clean it out so that hopefully the drainage, the pressure, you know, will drain more, right? Without having to rely on eye drops. Because while I was using those 2 eye drops, I mean, you can see it in my videos, people. Right? And not only that, I was sleeping more. And it's like a flood. I still have it a bit, but not as much. Now, if I get dizzy, it's not because of the medicine per se, because I'm still on 1 drop. It's the fact that my eyes are worse. They got worse. They got worse. I can only hope that they'll... I don't know. I don't think I got much time left, people. I really don't. Right? I don't want to cry, because that's dangerous. Right? I told you, it's dangerous if I start crying. Because the pressure goes up, and it squeezes what little left I have. But if he would have just done the 3, and this would have happened, I wouldn't be so suspicious, I suppose. But because he went and did another one real fast just as I was starting to move, because that woman said, you're done, and he said, no, you're not, click, boom, and another one pierced me, and I wasn't expecting it. And now I'm like, holy shit. You know, maybe there is some truth to my dream, people. Maybe everything is really going to go white. Maybe. I'm trying to look for the directions for this machine, the Ninja Creamy. I want to try and make some ice cream, maybe, but I don't see it. Ain't that interesting? This has got to be it. Anyway, I'll come back. Hold on. And then I did a little bit of research about blindness, right? Like, you know, like what happens to people when they go blind, kind of thing. I don't know. I came across some article that something like, what was it? It was a really high number. After 15 years of being completely blind, 65% of the people died from something to do with the arteries in your body or something. After 15 years, 65% of the people died. And I'm like, well, why is that? You know, I think in part you become more stationary, right? Because it's so hard to see. It's easier just to lay down and close your eyes and go to sleep. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're taking medication that is supposed to be for your eyes, but it's not. But instead it's knocking you out, right? And it dries you out too, right? Like it dries out your eyes, it dries out your mouth. You know, you can feel it drying you out, right? And yeah, you just, you know, you walk slower, you move slower, because, you know, you can't go barreling through shit like you used to, like the good old days, you know? You always, right? You have to, depending on what you're doing, you got to put your hands out as balanced just to make sure that you don't walk into something, because, you know, again, things blur together and you can't distinguish, well, that's a lamp post compared to a walkway. It all starts to look the same, depending on the lighting outside, if you're walking outside or whatever it is, right? You know? And eventually you can't do stuff like what I'm going to be doing today, right? So that must, your body, I don't know. So right there, your life expectancy is cut, right? Like I'm 61 years old, people. My life has been ruined. You know, what I'm planning to do and what I've, you know, is you planning for your death, right? You know, I'm thinking, well, I have to clear out that corner and just get a box and, you know, and start piling up the box and make a donation to some, or fucking whatever, put it on the street, whatever, you know, just get rid of it, because sooner or later it's not going to mean anything, you know. It's stupid, and of course other people want that to happen because, you know, it's more for them. One way or another, it's more for them, right? You know. So, you know, I'm not surprised. But it's like a death sentence. Look, you see my nose is running, right? And my eyes, just, I don't know, there's something wrong with it. It feels weird. Anyway, we'll see. Hold on. Either or, I can still see a little bit. It's just, it's like a death sentence. The only thing is it's dragged out. It just takes a little longer before they execute you. That's all.
No, because you have to jump. You're going to have to jump.
You have a little bit of time to get your quote-unquote affairs in order. But it's just a matter of time before you're taken out. Yeah. For sure. That's exactly what it feels like, people. You know. And with so many people these days having such a bad attitude with this death culture, in terms of they don't have patience for the elderly anymore for the most part, you know, just put them in a care folks home and let the government take care of them, or let them pay for their own care in an old folks home, and who cares if they just start dying en masse, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, as they're all over the world dying, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and then eventually the truth comes out. And it turns out that these governments that look after these old people ordered a whole bunch of medications that basically shut down lungs so that they can't breathe, and they smother to death if you overdose on that medication. And that's basically what happened to a lot of old people all over the place in different countries, including Canada. Okay. Some nurses tried to talk out about it, but they never really pushed back hard on it, people. They didn't. They talked about how they were told to inject these old people with something. They weren't sure what it was, but by the next day, those old people were dead. Okay.
Just run. Don't look behind.
That was happening in British Columbia, Canada.
Don't look behind.
Liberty Talk News brought a couple of people forward and mentioned it, but they never pursued it. They didn't take it to court. They didn't fight back. They didn't stand up and, hold the government to account for nefarious activities. They didn't, people. And it's still happening, I'm sure. They shut off Joan's water through the IV, and that's how she died. Look what they did to Uncle John. And as for these social workers, when ShaMay was in the hospital, that gay one, when I first met him and he was running around in the halls, he had on a black and white striped shirt as if he was a prisoner. I thought that was the strangest thing. Like, why you're a social worker in a hospital in an ICU ward, and you're running around with a shirt that looks like you're a prisoner to something. Yeah, okay. And those ones were going behind my back and letting anybody and everybody into ShaMay's room after I specifically told them more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times not to do that, and that I wanted a thorough investigation in regards to the injuries that she sustained from being attacked, namely by Julian. And they refused to do it, people, as they allowed everybody under the sun in and out of that room behind my back, until finally my son showed up and challenged him on it and got that on recording, and then I think they stopped. But interesting how they wouldn't allow anyone to take pictures of ShaMay, but they were allowing anybody and everybody to walk in and out of that room freely without any suspicion as to who they were and what their intentions were. Fucking mind fuckery, right?
Ooh.
And that's what those social workers. Stupid.
You're in his home.
Half of these individuals aren't even who they say they are, people. They're not. I've been around in contact with too many of them to reassure you that they're not what you think they are.
Damn.
They've been altered, some of them. How many, to what degree, I don't know. But it's more than just a mind hive. They're too deviant and morbid. So if Mari goes for hip surgery and I get an emergency phone call from Rachel, the social worker at the children's hospital, saying, oh, it's an emergency, and Mari had this and Mari had that, and now he's hooked up to machines and it doesn't look good, you better get here, the doctor wants to talk to you. Come on, people. Isn't that a little deja vu? Oh, it hasn't happened yet. Don't worry. Don't jump the gun, right? Yeah, okay. But that's okay. They're working on making me blind before that happens. So that when it does happen, if it should happen, they can take control of the whole situation and capitalize on every dollar that they can make, just like my landlady wants to make every dollar on this house before they completely demolish Amari or completely demolish this house. Because Amari is set up for organ harvesting after he dies, people.
Okay, so look. When you get to this corner,
right?
There's a spot there for you.
They can't take an adult's organs and put it in a child. They have to take a child's organs in order to put it into a child. And it just so happens the province of British Columbia, Canada, back in around the time when they brought in their research study, also decided to bring in a specialized operating team specifically to take out organs from children at the... Andre, shut up! Specifically to take out organs from children at the children's hospital so that they can put them into other children at that children's hospital. And that's what the government spent millions of dollars on to implement. Okay, they brought in a special operating team just for that, people. at that particular children's hospital that I had taken Mari to. And it was done all and around the same time they came in with their freaking research study. Yeah. So if Mari dies, they will immediately go in there and take out his organs with or without my permission. And if I came to them and said, no, you can't, they would say, well, oh, okay, we didn't do it, but you know they fucking did it, because that's what they do, people. Because the government made sure that you can't backtrack and follow up on what they have to say, because it's illegal to get independent autopsies out here, and therefore no doctor of any kind, of any qualifications, would ever do an independent autopsy in British Columbia, Canada, because they would go to jail. And the only reason the government doesn't want that to happen in terms of a doctor doing an independent autopsy is because they don't want to get caught with taking out organs illegally, whether it's from adults or from children. They take what they want when they want it. They had ShaMay booked in for surgery the minute that she showed up at that hospital, people. And within 7 hours, she was gutted. By 9 o'clock, she was embalmed. And she was leaking all over the place. Poke mark here, poke mark there, poke mark here, poke mark there. Little red liquid leaking out all over the place on both arms. Hold on a minute. Teacher wanted me to babysit. I told her no, because I can't see very well. Everything's blurry, and, you know, I'm tired and I'm going to count this chicken, but, you know, I actually babysit quite a bit, people. I really do. Once, twice a week now. They wanted to go to a movie, and I'm not feeling that great. I can't see very well. I'm just going to can this chicken. Andre left the fridge open when he put everything in the fridge, so I got 2 packs of sausages that were up high with the light on, so they kind of got cooked. So I'm just going to fry them up and give them to the raccoons or the cats or whatever outside, right? What was on the bottom were still kind of cold, and I gave them to my son. Now, whatever he does with them remains to be seen, but I'm not canning sausages. And as for this chicken, I won't know until I get it in the sink, right? But it should be fine because it was in a different spot in the fridge, so. And then after that, I'm already bagged, right? And like, I'm trying not to get discouraged. I'm just trying not to get discouraged, people. It's a fucking death sentence. I'm telling you, it is. It is. You're expected to. I mean, it's just whatever. Get rid of your shit. One way or another, they're going to find a way for you to get rid of your shit. Right? And even then, they'll threaten to give you an eviction notice and kick you out. Right? Throw out your shit if you don't get rid of your shit fast enough. Who fucking knows anymore, right? That's what I mean. People don't, you know, they don't care about nothing. They just care about, I don't know, just care about themselves. Where they can make their dollars. So don't ever think that Amari is safe in British Columbia, Canada, because if they did something, you know, in blood, I'd never be able to get an independent autopsy any more than I could get an independent autopsy for ShaMay or for Sierra, and that's because the government are covering up their dirty fucking tracks. Yeah. Oh yeah. Poke mark here, poke mark there, poke mark here. She had like a whole bunch of them all over on both arms, leaking red fluid. I said, what the hell is with that? Oh, we were trying to get her blood. It turned to water. We couldn't get her blood. That's why they had so many poke marks on her. I said, oh, what do you mean? Oh, her blood turned to water. So we try again. No, people, that's not what happened. They took something like this. Right? Go look up how they do embalming. And when they get to the extremities, the formaldehyde doesn't always get into the extremities because it can't travel, right, through the veins. So what they do is they take a long needle. Some of these needles are longer than this. Here's the end point. Some of these things are like almost 2-3 feet long, okay? and they start going like this on the arm. They shoot, they squirt. They pull, they shoot, they squirt, they shoot, okay? They do that on the legs, whatever. They had that, okay, that's what, there was no Band-Aids, nothing, it was just leaking. And then I said, okay, so her blood turned to water. I said, well, what's this? On the right side with the big Band-Aid. The Band-Aid was huge. It was huge. It was fucking huge. Right here. With it leaking out, all this red shit. Her blood turned to water. No, they did a botched job with their embalmers. The embalmer, whoever embalmed ShaMay, did a terrible job, and they were rushing. And that's why they were late, because we were supposed to go in at 9, but we weren't allowed in until 9:15, and even then they let Julian and his mother and his sister go in first. Even though I'm the parent. Right? Anything to fuck with your brain, right? And then I said, I don't want them coming back. And they allowed them back in. They allowed Julian back in after the fact. As he's running around up and down in the halls with his friends. And whoever else weren't supposed to be in there, they were allowing in. The point is ShaMay was embalmed. And I can prove it because she has an orifice plug in her mouth. And she had sutures in her lips to hold up her jaw as it was falling off her face. And she had a bruise on her forehead as they insisted that she had no bruises. And her eyes caved in, and then all of a sudden they put in eye caps and they were bulging. So it went from caving in to bulging. And this is what's going to operate on Amari. As I got random people calling me up a year before that even fucking happens, trying to scare the pants off me by saying, well, it's not an emergency phone call, please call me back. Okay. Okay. As I've got my doctor shooting me 4 times instead of 3 times, and getting me on the 4th one as I'm turning my head because his assistant is saying I'm done. And now my eyes are even more blurry. And smoky. It's a fucking nightmare. I live a complete nightmare. The only thing is, if I die, I will try to get, at least, I don't think my son would do it. Tisha might do one video and post it up online and let people know I'm dead. She might. Otherwise, I don't know. So I'm going to have to use these jars for this chicken that I'm going to can with bones in. It's less time for pressure canning when you're doing bones, I guess, because the bones are porous and it's easy for the heat to travel through them. So therefore, if you're doing a quart-sized jar, you don't have to do it in 90 minutes as if it was like with boneless chicken. Instead, it's 75 minutes. I think it's 65 minutes for a pint and 75 minutes for a quart with bones in. But if it's boneless, you're looking at 90 minutes for a quart and 75 minutes for a pint. Isn't that interesting? So my pressure canner holds 7 quarts, so I'll wash 7 quarts anyway. I don't know how much 2 chickens is going to get me. Honestly, I don't think it's going to get me 7 quarts. I'll be lucky if it gets me 5. It should get me at least 4, for sure, but I highly doubt that it will get me 7. told my son today he can go into that Auntie ShaMay's room and he can eat basically whatever he wants. Just when you use the jar, if you're not sure what to do with it in terms of how to heat it, cook it, or whatever, just come and ask me first. And then after you're done with the jar, you know, save the rings, obviously wash. He knows to try and take these off as gently as he can, because you can't recan with them technically. If the world became a really bad place, worse than it already is for a lot of people, and you had no choice, then yeah, you could recan if you had no choice because you couldn't find anything else. Or in terms of like putting something in a jar and putting it in the freezer, that's what these would be good for after they've been used. Or maybe something that's, you know, kicking around on the counter, but not necessarily recanning unless, of course, we were in a war-torn economy and you just had no choice, right? And then I just told him to take the jars as he's washing and put them back where he got them from, so that, you know. But when it comes to continuing on with this stuff, I don't know, people. I don't think I can do this much longer. No. Now, it could be just a bad day, right? I haven't used that aloe vera yet. I haven't done it yet. Not that it would make much difference because this is way down deep inside my head, right? I'm just discouraged. I've been handed down a death sentence from my government. And they're just dragging it out, dragging it out, dragging it out because they're harvesting that negative energy, that fear factor, right? You know, I do believe that. Yeah. It's not normal what my family has been through. There is nothing normal about it. Absolutely nothing. Poke marks all over. They didn't even have band-aids on them because they didn't have time, people. So for that, yappity yap yap, well, I was the first one, and you weren't even there. No, you were sitting over there, we were sitting over there, and I let you go in first so that once you fucking left, you left, and I didn't have to fucking deal with you. Okay? And you weren't supposed to come back. None of you. That's what happened. But by the time I got in there, it was just long enough for that liquid to start leaking out of those puncture holes from their needles that they use to fill up, plump up, put the formaldehyde in, because they come in through the there's two ways they come in: through the jugular, or they can come in from the groin. There's a main artery in the groin that they can do it. In this case, they did it with the jugular. Okay, to which, by the time the 9th day came, it was rotting. People, I have that. I can prove that with a picture as well. Okay, like because she was decomposing. That's why her body was decomposing. And then they take these long ass needles and they go in. They squirt. They pull out, they go in, they squirt, they pull out, they go in, they squirt, wherever. They do that on the legs, the extremities, right? Because the formaldehyde doesn't go into those veins as easily as it does with the other major artery veins within the torso. And that's why she was leaking everywhere, randomly. Okay, it wasn't just one spot, it was all over, people. I can't stress it enough. With a big ass fucking band-aid there with it leaking out from underneath the band-aid. And I contribute that to that somehow, some way, they've got some student program learning how to embalm bodies down in the basement. Even though they're not supposed to be embalming bodies in hospitals in British Columbia, Canada. Or they just got some ghoul that's down there doing it cashing in his or her bribe money. Because you're dealing with a network. It's like a syndicate of a bunch of fucking crooks working together. And it doesn't start and stop at the Surrey Memorial Hospital. It goes from hospital to hospital to hospital. Okay, I got something going on with my cataracts here. Yesterday I was in there talking to Tisha. I guess the light is reflecting, and Tisha says, "Well, why are your eyes gray?" Andre was just having a little debate with me, because he likes to go like this in front of the canner and try and pass me. And I tried to explain to him that this is a pressure canner. You don't want to start knocking it, right? Anyway, I'm standing here, I'm looking at him, and he just said the same thing. Why is my eyes gray? In terms of, I guess, my pupil. Well, it's because I have cataracts, right? I told you, everything's getting even more and more, like it's more cloudy. But you know what? The doctor already warned me. I'm going to do cataract with this one, right? He already warned me that it's not going to make much of a difference because there's no optic nerves to process the different light spectrums. So, but this eye is all, I don't know. I got 3 more minutes on this chicken. I put it at 85 minutes, and you know what? I might just give it 5 extra minutes and keep it at just a straight up 90 minutes. Because the fridge downstairs, the door was open a bit for a day. I specifically told Andre. I said, Andre, make sure that, when you put stuff away, that the door doesn't open up. But he's always rushing around. And, this computer at this point seems to be working. And he's been trying to learn the program to record sounds and music and all that other stuff, right? But he's on his Nintendo today, so he's getting mouthy with me. I pointed that out to him. As I'm standing here arguing with him that I don't care if you got to go to the bathroom. You ask me to move before you try and to get by, Nana, well, why is your eyes gray? But, like I said, the doctor, he told me that even if I get the cataract surgery, it's probably not going to make much of a difference because I just don't have the optic nerves anymore. So, it would be great if it made a little bit of difference, being that everybody's noticing that my eyes are gray. So anyway, I'm trying to put my Asian noodle maker together. I almost got it, but I can't quite figure out this part because it's on a crank, right? So anyway, I'll come back in a minute, so hold on. So yeah, instead of giving it 75 minutes, I gave it 90 minutes, right? Just because the fridge door was open for a while. I just gave the chicken a good wash, right? I didn't can the back part of it. And, I took off the skin. I'm rendering the skin right now. Apparently, chicken fat, if you seal it in a jar, is shelf stable. Yeah. Like you render it in a pot like this, right? And then after that, you treat it like a lard, where you pour it into a jar. You pour it into a jar, extremely hot, put your lid on, I guess turn it upside down, and it seals, right? But whatever. For what it's worth, it's such a small, it's going to be just a little amount because it was only 2 chickens, right? It's taking a long time. So there, I did 90 minutes on that only because the fridge door was open.
Hey, Johnny.
Right?
Oh.
But it has bones in it. So it will be fine. I only got 3 jars, quart size full, with 2 chickens. And I got 2 backs, and I'm making a bit of broth here. Just a bit. And I'll have just a small jar of chicken fat.
I'm drifting.
So we'll just let that render for a bit. Now, I managed to get this together so far. All right, where did I put the directions? They're right here. It's very hard to... I don't want to get too forceful with this because this is obviously a crank of some kind. This here doesn't seem to... It only seems to go like that. I don't know... Oops, sorry.
Oh, I killed you.
I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to go all the way around or if that's the way it's supposed to be. This one's on right because it rests on this, but there's some sort of little black thing there that ends up locking. So I don't know. You can pull this up. Where is it? Oh God, I can't see. Right here. Right. But it'll... Alright. So, I don't know. Hold on. I don't read Chinese. Or whatever this language is. If you hold this, it goes back down. And it rests there. So, that is correct. I'm sure. Okay, so I turned off the canner now. So that's okay. I don't want to get this locked in there where I can't get it out, right? Because obviously it's, you know, it's got ridges in there, so it's some kind of, I don't know. And then you get it in, you crank it down, and then I guess it screws into this part from underneath. Then you put your dough in this little thing here, then you move it over, and then I don't know, like, I don't know how to crank it. I don't know how to make it, like, this thing is sturdy. I guess like that, maybe. Once you get this in, I could see that maybe happening. But why this one just goes like that, I don't know. God forbid. I might have to take it to some Asian restaurant or something. Maybe somebody can help me get it figured out correctly. I don't know. I'm sticking my finger in there, but I'm a little afraid to stick it in too far, right? I can feel the ridges, so I would think the ridges would go against each other, right? Right? I would think. But again, I don't want to be too forceful with it. See, yeah.
Come back into the
I'm
game.
scared. So this one here does something. But it's crooked. So I don't know. Maybe you're supposed to bring this up. Because you can make this thing stand straight. Almost. I don't know. I'm afraid to, I don't know what to do. So 2 people in the last 24 hours have told me they're asking me why my eyes are gray. I guess that's cataracts. But again, the eye specialist said taking out and replacing it with something else isn't really going to make much of a difference. If anything, it might make it more brighter. God forbid, people, if it's really glaring. I said, well, maybe because you get a choice of 3 different kind, right? And I said, I don't want just the one that the government pays for. I want the more better one, right? Because it's a one-time shot kind of thing, right? Oh, no, you just take what the government pays for. It's just fine. You don't need nothing else. Like, why? Because my eyes are shot. That's why. Anyway, let me try and figure this out. Okay, I kind of put it together.
Oh, yes you can. Yes you can.
So this slides over. I have to wash this, and I'll have to wash this, right? Anyway, you put your dough in this. This can go over a bowl, or you can put it right over the stove and run your noodles right directly into boiling water. That's why it looks like that. And it's very well made. This handle, I had to bend it because anyway, I figured it out. It took me a while. So then you go like this, and then I guess you get your dough in there, and then you kind of like position this. Oh my Lord. Oh, it doesn't look like I got it lined up properly. This has a plate underneath here. Actually, you should be able to move this. Let me see. Let me see.
What happens if one of us are street racing and we fly off?
Oh boy. There's a butterfly hook.
We are still going. Oh, it's another one of these. Oh, see you, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come down, okay? I'm gonna come down. Just stay down there.
There we go. So you just tighten everything.
Okay, there's another road.
Whoa.
There's another road. Right over
And
there.
because there was no dough in it, you just heard it.
Okay.
See, it dropped. So I'm assuming you should be able to wind it back up. But when the dough's in there, you use this. It's supposed to crank it down. It doesn't look like it's working. Oh, God.
Oh, beat.
Maybe you have to go like this. Yeah. It wouldn't do that if there was dough in it. This is supposed to help. So there. And then I got that comet wheat, which is supposed to be really, really good for pasta. So, I don't know. We'll see.
I'll see you around, buddy.
Now, where do I put this thing? I'm not dismantling it other than the parts that I'm going to wash and I'm going to use. So.
Zombie, I found another secret.
There we go. Now I'm going to bring out my jars and see what they look like, and then I'm going to end this video. Okay, so I'm going to end this video. I don't even know what I was talking about. It's the next freaking day. Anyway, long story short, I told my son he can go into Auntie ShaMay's room and whatever and start utilizing some of these canned goods. But honestly, people, you know, with him chucking out my shit and all this other crap, like, who fucking knows? Like, seriously, like, but I can't get all stressed out about it. So anyway, that right there in itself in those 3 jars is $30 in chicken on sale. I bought 2 whole chickens at $15 each on sale. Okay, so if my son wants to be stupid enough and throw out a fucking jar because of whatever bad attitude that he's got up his butthole, who fucking knows? Because I'm still finding shit outside. Like, literally, like, I don't get it. Like, I don't fucking get it, right? But besides that point, you know, like, my life will end soon enough. And none of this bullshit that I go through at fucking 61 years old with fucking adult brats, I don't know. Like, I don't want to pick on my son, but at the end of the day, like, he needs to grow the fuck up, because I don't think he really realizes what's coming, okay, in terms of the cost of living and just the whole 9 yards. Sure, he's one guy with some girlfriend, okay, you can go run off into the fucking bush and be bushman for all I care, but at the end of the day, that was never my fucking life. It was never my style, and I always thought about anywhere between 7 to 9 people, if not more, as a family. As a family, like Uncle John say, we stick together as family. Whether my son wants to be a part of that family or not remains to be seen. Okay? But besides that point, if he wants to throw out $30 worth of fucking chicken because he's not fucking happy with the result of it, and he thinks he can go off to Costco and do better, well, so be it. At the end of the day, that's $30 in chicken, people.